You want to think it over? Oh my God. If that's your reaction when a client says, I want to think it over, you need to watch today's Dave Lorenzo Daily. Hi, I'm Dave Lorenzo, and on today's Dave Lorenzo Daily, we're going to discuss how you can make sure you never get an "I'm gonna think it over" from your client ever again. This phrase comes from you not qualifying the client in the first place. You should never be in a conversation that will lead to a decision and get the phrase, "I'm gonna think it over." Here's how this works. When you sit down with a client, they need to know that you're expecting a decision at the end of that conversation. I prefer to talk to my clients in advance of a client meeting, and we'll talk about how I qualify those clients before I ever get to that phone call or that meeting. The initial call, the call from the prospect, goes like this. Hi, my name is Joe Smith and I'm an entrepreneur. I live in Idaho and I'd like some help with sales. I understand from reading your website you have sales coaching programs. Will you help me? Can you help me? So then I say, Joe Smith, thank you so much for calling. Tell me a little bit about your business. They tell me about the business. Tell me a little bit about what you'd like to accomplish in our work together. Tell me a little bit about why this is the right time for you to address these issues. Tell me about the resources you have to apply toward this problem. When I ask them to tell me about these things, what I'm asking for is I'm really qualifying them based on the money they have to spend with me. I want to make sure they have the money to spend. That's when I ask about the resources. I'm qualifying them based on the problem they're looking to solve. I want to make sure they have a problem I can solve. I'm qualifying them to see if they're ready to make a decision right now. Those are the three elements we need before we have a meeting where we talk about solutions and we talk about investment, talk about price. I need to make sure they have the money, they can afford to work with me. I need to make sure they have a problem I can solve. I don't want to stretch myself and try and solve a problem that I don't think I can handle. And I want to make sure that they're ready to make a decision right now. Those are the three things I want. When they tell me, listen, I need to make a decision right now because I have a goal to take my business to the next level in 6 months. So I know they're ready to make a decision right now. If they say, the resources, well, I saw on your website that it costs $50,000 to work with you, so that's what I'm willing to spend, I know they have the money. And then when they say, I need to learn how to market to affluent customers, I know they have a problem I can solve and they're ready to work with me. So money, a problem I can solve, and they're ready to make a decision right now. Those are the three things I look for. I say to them, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to set up an initial consultation with you. Normally I charge $2,500 for this, but because you found me through the ad on the internet, I'm willing to do a 30-minute consultation with you for $750, which I'll apply toward our work together. The $750 consultation, I will deliver some solutions to you, and then I say to them, in that meeting, on the phone, what we're going to do is, I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions. You're gonna tell me about your business, and you're gonna ask me a lot of questions about how I work. When we're finished with that consultation, two things are going to happen. I'm going to decide whether you're a good fit for me. You're going to decide if I'm a good fit for you. Now, because you're paying me a $750 consultation fee, I'm going to include a recording of the consultation. I'm going to give that to you, along with some advice that will help you take your business to the next level. Just a couple of things. Then what we'll decide is if we're going to work together for the next 6 months, we'll decide how you're going to take care of the investment and whether it makes sense for us to actually do that. So there's basically two outcomes from this conversation. One, we can decide mutually to work together, or two, we can decide not to work together. The one thing that can't happen, the one thing that absolutely can't happen on this call is you say to me, I want to think about it, because you've thought about it enough to make the phone call to me. I explain what this consultation is going to be about. We're going to take some time out of each of our schedules to talk together. You're gonna pay me $750 for a 30-minute consultation. And then at the end of that call, you're gonna say, yes, Dave, I wanna work together. I'm gonna say, yes, Joe Smith, I wanna work with you. Or we're gonna each say no, or if one of us says no, the whole thing's off. That's what's gonna happen on this call. Do you agree to that? Yes, okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow at 10 o'clock, that's our call. Now there's no reason why you'd cancel that call, right? You're gonna definitely call? Yes, I'm gonna definitely call. Okay, fine, we're all set tomorrow at 10. We'll make a decision on whether or not we work together after we speak. That's it. Before the meeting, you tell them you expect an answer, and then you'll never get, and I wanna think it over. On the outside chance that you go through all of that, and they say to you, listen, I know you said we had to give a yes or a no, but I wanna think it over. Here are 3 ways to combat that. The first way you say is, hey, Joe, we talked about this. You promised me you weren't gonna think it over. Why don't you just tell me no? Now, when you ask him why he doesn't just tell you no, he's gonna give you a reason that you can use to sell him. Well, Dave, the reason I don't wanna just tell you no is because I really promised my wife I would grow the business by 50%. I wasn't really committed to this. My wife wanted to commit to this. Okay, Joe, it's okay. You can say no and go home and disappoint your wife. You see that? You go ahead and you sell right into that objection there. The second way you can combat this is you can say, well, I know we said we weren't gonna think it over, and I told you you could just say no, but you said you don't wanna just say no. What do you need to hear in order to move you from thinking it over into a yes? What would make you feel better about saying yes? What would help you say yes right now? Again, they're gonna give you something you can use to sell them right now. The third way to combat this, when they say, I wanna think it over, is you simply turn to them and say, listen, Joe, I've decided that we're not a good fit. I really appreciate you thinking of me. Please think of me in the future if any of your friends could use the help that I provide, but obviously this isn't right for you. Thanks very much. He may say, okay, fine, and if he does, he was a no in the first place and he just didn't want to hurt your feelings. If he says, wait a minute, I didn't mean that, then you'll get him to move forward and say yes to you. Those are the 3 ways to combat I want to think it over, and that's what I do on a telephone call. What do you do if you're face to face? Very similar. However, in the upfront, when you're doing the qualifying on the phone, one of the things you can say to them is, listen, I'm coming all the way over to your office. I'm going to do a full presentation. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. You should feel completely comfortable at the end of that presentation saying no to me. I don't want you to feel any sense of guilt that I flew all the way to Idaho to present to you and your board. I took 3 days out of my schedule, 1 day to get there, 1 day to get home. I don't want you to feel any guilt. If we're not a good fit, I want you to say no. Do you promise me you will say no if we're not a good fit? Here's what you're doing. You're really positioning yourself as making a commitment to going to see them. So they're going to take this meeting very, very seriously. I add the extra step of saying, I want you to feel free to say no to me when I come all the way to your office and I do this presentation. I take that extra step, and the reason I take that extra step is because I want them to have the weight of the world on their shoulders when I finish my presentation and I say, listen, we've spoken, I know I can help you. I think I've shown that I can help you in this presentation. Isn't that correct? They all say yes. Let's work together. And they say yes, and they say, how do we do it? And I pull out the contract and I hand it to them. I want them to feel a sense of obligation that I'm coming out there. So that's the only difference. If you get it and I think it over in an in-person meeting, you can use the 3 techniques that I outlined, but in the qualifying process up front, before you make the money presentation, you do the qualifying. That's what combats the I want to think it over. My name is Dave Lorenzo, and I'm here every day. You can find me right here every day with great sales information to help you make a great living and live a great life. Until I see you again, I hope you do this and sell more.